Hi, everyone. So as you all know, this meeting will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. I'm just looking at the agenda. We have Sheen. Would like to talk about a way to ignore pods for eviction in the descheduler.
Hey, yeah, this is Sean. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So I opened this GitHub issue for like a feature request for a descheduler. So, like high level, just wanted to run it by people. The concept, I guess, there's two options for having descheduler ignore pods for eviction. One is by annotation. The other one is by party class. There's been some discussion on the GitHub issue by several people that are on this call already. So that's the high-level overview. I mean, if you want to go into more details, we can. If you have questions or need me to explain it further.
Right. So I guess I can try to summarize it from someone who just read the doc to make sure we understand the problem. So what you would like to do is to have a way to configure the descheduler to ignore a specific group of pods from being considered for eviction. And the question here is, how do we select those pods, or how do we identify basically those pods? And you're suggesting two ways on that issue. One is like by labels, I guess, and the other one is by setting a priority class, like a threshold, where any pods that are with a priority higher than that will be ignored. So I guess the first approach is not a label; it's actually an annotation that you're going to set, which is similar to how we used to define critical pods in the past before pod priority was introduced. Is that a fair summary?
I'd say yes.
Yeah, I guess like a third approach could be similar to what you suggested last week, related to how we filter, basically filtering the descheduler label and namespace filtering. And have you also considered doing something similar as well? Like saying, okay, pods in this namespace, for example, kube system, are not. Like, and then you can say, okay, you can configure the descheduler with a specific namespace. It's just like another like option that you might want to add.
Yep. Yeah. I'd say from my perspective, I'd say, yeah, we want to. I'd say it would be interesting to have feature to be able to include and exclude by namespace, include and exclude by label, which is what we talked about the previous meeting, and then this is like an additional option, or a third option, we'll call it, for excluding pods.
Okay. Yeah. I think, like from my perspective, the priority threshold does make sense. But I'm not a user of the descheduler, so I can't really comment too much on how people usually use the descheduler and what would make sense generally. Any other suggestions, comments?
Well, right now,
I took a quick look. So the second option that goes with the descheduler policy specific fields make more sense to me, because as someone mentioned that the current, if you go with global command line arguments, that is not version, and also that is I guess that this has growth much bigger than the initial state. So to have an organized and a version spec for management, then management will be much easier, unless there is a particular requirement to have it to be global. I think having it global can be the next thing that the scheduler goes with, just like the scheduler component config. rather than put them into individual command line arguments.
Right, but there are two questions here. First is, how do we select the pods? The second thing, how do we configure this scheduler with this selection, right? And the first question is like whether we select them using an annotation, like namespace label specification, like selector, or setting a threshold. And now the second question, which is what you're discussing right now, is whether it's going to be at the policy level or at like a global flag, right? So those are two things that we want to make a decision on, right?
Sean is putting up another issue, right? Not the one that the label or namespace selector last time we discussed, right?
The issue that he's linking to, like Sean can speak. Okay, instead of
yeah, so this would be like I said, there would be kind of this is a new, or I think a third option for ignoring pods. So this is separate from label and namespace. Does that answer your question?
Right. So we have two, I think two problems, or like two things that we want to make you want to make a decision on. One is, how do we select the pods, which is using a priority threshold, using a annotation, or using a label selector. And then how do we feed that into the descheduler, whether as a command line flag or as a policy, or like as a, what do you call them, like eviction policies, or
yeah, there's some, like everything in Kubernetes, there's some wonderful YAML configuration file they have to update. Yeah.
So do you agree that those are the two things that we're discussing? Like those are two different problems, right? And Wei was discussing the second one, not the first one. I'm not sure if we've made a decision on the first one.
I think, the ideas discussing here is just using a threshold. Right.
Yeah, I think a threshold makes more sense than adding the annotation, because these ideas kind of come from two things. That the scheduler currently, it does exclude certain pods by a priority threshold, and that's just the system critical threshold, which is higher than users can set. I think it's 2 times the highest user priority class. And there's also the fact that we have I think we have an annotation that you can add to specify that pods are evictable. So if they don't meet all the criteria to be evicted, you can have this annotation. So this is sort of extrapolating both of those into other ways that users can configure the descheduler. So those are the 2 ways that we currently built in, just try to basically exclude like system pods. So that's where the 2 options come from.
Just as an example, cluster autoscaler, they do have something similar. When they downscale, you can you can configure pods to say, don't ever evict me, and they use an annotation, just like as an example of what other component does. But I mean, maybe for the descheduler, the priority threshold makes more sense.
Maybe, I think, this scheduler may consider the paths in batch. So comparing to the burden of assigning the annotation to each path, if a global or whatever field makes more sense, then can make more sense.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought that it's like interesting to see what other components are doing, but probably for the descheduler, this makes more sense.
And also compared to the label and namespace filtering, it can be used only for some strategies. Like, and the like the priority class threshold, it's more more suitable for the low node utilization strategy, where, for example, the namespace filtering is not allowed to be used. So just to say, like in some cases, the class priority just rolled is the only way how to like save or keep some pods from being like deleted.
That's another good point. The things that we discussed last time don't apply to every strategy. And this is more of a global setting for the descheduler, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. There is some clear preference towards using priority threshold. Is there anything else, Sean, you want to discuss related to this item?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. And the second one is a shameless plug for KubeCon virtual session that Mike and Aldo will be recording. Mike, Aldo, you want to talk about this?
No, I just added that, just like you said, shameless plug. I don't know if anyone else has, I did a quick look through the schedule to see if there was anyone else from the SIG that was doing stuff. I didn't see any quick, but if anyone has any other presentations that they want to link to, add it to the list there and we'll all check them out. Just a reminder about KubeCon. We're going to be, like you said, recording the slides tomorrow. And if there's anything critical that you want us to mention, let me know. But that's it.
Sounds good, and good luck.
Thanks.
Will you guys be, what is the mechanism for, there are no questions, right? Like there's no, for example, like a list of questions that people can ask before time.
There's going to be, so we're recording the slides and then it's going to be, I think, a live Q&A after the slides actually get presented. So we're going to be there.
Okay.
I think it's at 7:45 a.m. Eastern time. Nice and early.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it might be useful, like to closer to that deadline, to send an email to the list and on the Slack channel, just for people like to who wants to ask questions. Is it open for everybody, or do they have to be registered in the conference?
I think you have to be registered.
Okay. Okay. We want to demo our new shiny post filter for preemption.
Let me share my screen. Oh, damn it. Zoom is asking for privacy preference. I need to quit Zoom and rejoin later. Give me 1 second.
I can see it now. I can see the screen.
Nice. First, I want to go through some changes on the extension point diagram. So basically, before we didn't list the specific preemption phase here, which happens after filter, and only triggered when there's no single feasible node. So right now we make that phase explicit here as a post filter extension point. So, and as before, it's also only trigger when there's no feasible node. The changes here is that we made the hard-coded logic extendable, and it's a bit difficult than we thought, because preemption is a phase that you need to do some internal dry run on reusing some filter logic or pre-filter logic, so that made the efforts a little more than we expected. But glad we did it. So it's available in the 1.19 release. So if anyone wants to try this point to customize the preemption logic, you can do that. So today I'm going to show you how to do that to exercise cross-node preemption. So basically, right now, due to some performance considerations, we just allow the preemption logic to happen on a single node to preempt those parts in a single node. And but that is a limitation for the performance. But we are open to more smart idea, smart algorithm, improving the flexible strategy to preempt the path. So this is just a demo. So I would say we are doing pretty well in reframing our logic into plugins, so that right now you can implement your customized plugin in a repo. In this, not sure you are aware of this. We've been have a few proposals like co-scheduling, like elastic coder or something in progress. So you can fork this repo and build all your plugins on this folder. So here I will just use an example. Right now I'm just using create a new folder called cross-node preemption, and I will show you the logic later. And there's one file. You just implement the post-filter extension point and do all the necessary logic here. And how it's built. It's built nothing special. It's just the same as how the main upstream scheduler was built. So basically, there's CMD folder. There's the main.go. You just vendor the upstream CMD kube scheduler /app and app.new scheduler command, and we have a hook there called with plugin, so you can register your out of tree plugin to the registry. And after you register that, you can enable it or don't enable it. It just depends on you. So I'm using the local app script, for example. Here is the latest Kubernetes code base, and I just did some change on the hack local app cluster.sh. What I did is I replaced the kube scheduler binary. I'm using the scheduler plugin bin/kube scheduler, which I just built, the main.go I just showed you. And I'm using the multi-profile features, which was introduced in 1.18 release. So basically, I kept the default scheduler in place and name another scheduler called cross-node preemption and enable the specific plugin. So that's all. And okay, I can show you a little bit. So right now I have 3 nodes, and the topology is a bit like this. The topology is like this. Node 1 and node 2 belongs to zone 1, and node 3 belongs to zone 2. And to demonstrate that the node 3 is infeasible, whatever, due to out of resources or something, I just tan this node. It can be the same effect if you have run out of the resources. And Next, I'm going to deploy 2 pods, and they're using the pod topology spread constraints to evenly spread to the node. Because the zone 2 is infeasible, so I would expect them to land on zone 1, on node 1 and node 2 accordingly. Okay. Oops. Yeah, they are land on node 1 and node 2. And next, I'm going to deploy a preemptor path. And of course, the preemptor has to have a higher priority. So I put the priority higher class P1 here. And let me just use default scheduler to give you an idea how it works. So basically, this preemptor path is trying to schedule to this cluster with a spread constraint on zone, and max skew is 1. So in this case, if we put the pod to zone 1, of course it doesn't work because in that case, the total number of pods in zone 1 will be 3, but in zone 2 there's 0. So that is violated the max skew. But of course, we can put it into zone 2, but zone 2 is unfortunately infeasible. So basically, I will expect the preemptor to be pending. Yes, it's pending. Let's give another couple of seconds to see how it changes. Of course, it doesn't. It still stays in the pending state, and the 2 running paths are not impacted. So what we can do nothing, because all the default preemption strategy just try to preempt paths from a single node. It doesn't work if you preempt this path from node 1 or either preempt this path from node 2. But it can be possible that we preempt these 2 paths together and make the incoming path schedulable. So let me delete this first. And now I'm going to try to use the customize cross node preemption, the finger cross. Let's see whether it works. It seems to work. So yeah, the preemptor is landing on node 2. And after the preemptor land on node 2, the original 2 paths starts to be rescheduled. And of course, there's at least one original path cannot fit in because the original 2 paths want to schedule on the nodes evenly. So that is basically demos how it works. And you might imagine that the logic is complex, but it's not that case. Let me show a bit the logic here. So because we already have a good default implementation in the upstream. So what you need to do is just implement the customized ones. So the logic starts with post filter, and you can define a private function called preempt, but it's up to you. And then, so the DP is short for default preemption. You can see that I just vendor the upstream default implementation in some steps. So the steps 1 is default implementation.
I don't think we're seeing, at least I'm not seeing your code. Like it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me
it's the
reshare.
terminal.
Okay, let me reshare. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will continue my words. So because in the upstream, there is already a good shape default implementation. So you don't need to re-implement all of them. What you need to do, just implement what the customer wants. So the DP is short for default preemption right here. So that means this is the upstream default implementation. So I can leverage that. The first step, I leverage that. The third step, I leverage that. The fourth step, I leverage that. Also the fifth, all 5 steps, I just implement only the second step, which is to find the candidate. And the find candidate, I just using a brute force DFS algorithm to try all the parts combination. So for each part, you can choose or not choose. So in total, it will be a lot of choice, of course, but it's just a demo to show you how it works. So the code logic I would see here is less than 100 lines. You can implement the cross-node preemption. So right here, using DFS, recursively, the code itself, sort of just like this. And also we have quite good library for you to build your unit test. For example, the ST is short for scheduling testing. You can build the API objects easily, and also we have a good utility like st.new framework. You just register, register the tester. Register your plugin into a unit test, sort of like that. So that's pretty much for it. Yeah, any questions?
Hey, Wei, this is Yuan. So great work and very excited to see this. Yeah, I have 2 questions. And the first one, have you any think about, thought about, so what's the performance implication and this cross-node preemption? As you mentioned, you used DFS and other thing. Do you think that could be?
No, it's just a sample. I just use a couple of hours to build it. So it's more as a sampling to sort of inspire the end users to explore more innovative ideas, and more efficient algorithms. So basically the idea is we give you a sample implementation. We just don't want to limit the default implementation of scheduler. So we want more ideas. We can put them into the scheduler plugins repo to incubate, to iterate. So that is the basic idea. It's just a sample implementation.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So the second one is, I have not played and much with the post filter plugin. So it's already available there, right? Even 118.
Yeah, 119.
Yeah.
Okay, I will show you a little bit.
Yeah.
So basically, right now 119 is not cut yet, right? But so I just use the 119.0 RC1. So if you want to give a try, you can refer the Go modules settings here. You have to use the RC1, and everything is in place in RC1.
Okay, so just clarification, question. So if I saw we have the post filter plugin already, right? Even in 118. So, but in order to implement,
not really. No. 118, there's no post filter plugin.
No, I just check my code. I definitely saw it in the framework interface.
Have a different semantics. That might be.
So that's my question. Is that if I want to implement my customer preemption logic, I have to use the 119 and
yes,
because the post filter plugin definitely is available in 118 and
yeah, 118 is it was totally different semantics.
Okay. So anyway, if I want to try the customer preemption logic use the post filter plugin, and I should use the 119. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, got it.
And beyond that, I'm trying to create an issue in schedule plugin to come up with a series of sample plugins to give the user samples to exercise each extension point. So yeah, I have built a sort plugin, and of course we can experiment more. For example, like score. For example, a score plugin, you can take into account that the terminating path and also as well as the nominated path. So you can give a weight, give a score in considering these factors. And this logic is not in the default implementation, but you can implement that. So I just, yeah, this repo again is to inspire more practical ideas to resolve real case problems. Give it check out. So.
Great. Thank you so much for the demo and leading the effort behind custom plugins. Any other questions? Okay. So the plan for next meeting, which is going to be in 2 weeks, is to review what we're planning to do for 1.20. So I'll share a spreadsheet with the group. I'll try to suggest a few things, but if you have any suggestions, please either create issues or basically send any recommendations on the mailing list. All right. Thank you so much. That's our agenda for today. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.